It's the biggest hoax in the history of American journalism, and now it's falling to bits. The Russian collusion hoax, the one the media ran with for nearly 4 years to destabilise and destroy the president, Donald Trump. The hoax that in the end probably cost him the presidency. It's this story that Donald Trump colluded with Russia to steal the emails of the Hillary Clinton campaign and release them to embarrass her. And in fact that Russia could at the same time have been blackmailing Trump over, and this was the claim, Trump hiring prostitutes to do disgusting things. Well, it was all fake, fake and fake. But have you heard one single sorry from one of the journalists who pushed this so relentlessly, who were so desperate for this to be true, who pretended it was true, who were gagging for it to be true, so that the wicked Donald Trump would be destroyed?
He may be the first president in quite some time to face the real prospect of jail time.
People might go to jail.
You're exactly right.
For the rest of their lives.
I think they're all going to jail. Well, I think they're all going to end up together in prison, and maybe that's a good thing. Oh, my God.
I'm talking about the entirely legitimate question of whether Donald Trump could be compromised by the Russian government.
So where are all these people now that a special counsel has charged 3 men involved in the hoax and shown it was built largely on lies? Has anyone yet heard a sorry from Rachel Maddow, who on MSNBC did more than anyone to push these lies? Obsessive she was, night after night.
Russia, Vladimir Putin, Russia hates Russia, Putin, Russia's Russia, Moscow, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, the Russians, Moscow.
And this Russian collusion story didn't just obsess America's mainstream media, it spread around the world to poison Donald Trump's name everywhere. On the very other side of the globe, Australia's state broadcaster treated this hoax as true and even ran a 3-part series about it on its top current affairs show.
Tonight, we begin our special 3-part investigation into the story of the century, the election of US President Donald Trump and his ties to Russia. Next week, secrets, spies and useful idiots. We'll introduce you to key players accused of being compromised by Russia.
Now, I know many of you probably realised long ago this Russian collusion story was a joke. It didn't make sense. Something smelled. In fact, former FBI boss Robert Mueller was asked by the Trump administration to check it out, and after 2 years he was forced to admit, seemingly against his will, that there was no Russian collusion. But Mueller missed the big picture, because for all the time that he was given, 2 years, and for all the staff and the tens of millions of dollars that he was given to investigate this Russian collusion story, he never seemed to work out that the chief document behind this hoax was a pack of lies. No, that took the work of a special counsel, John Durham, who's been investigating exactly how the material behind these collusion claims was put together. And the results so far are dynamite. Like I say, 3 men now charged with lying. And the claims against Trump about the collusion and the Russian prostitutes, they came from a dossier prepared by a former British spy, Christopher Steele, whose primary source was Igor Danchenko, an analyst in America who's now been arrested and charged with lying to the FBI about exactly where and how he got his information. And I tell you what, the FBI would be feeling like fools, because Steele gave them this dossier smearing Trump, and they used it to get court orders allowing them to spy on Trump's team. But the 39-page indictment against this Danchenko suggests that the claims in this dossier were built on exaggerations, rumours and outright lies. And it seems some of the material in it from Danchenko came to him from an operative linked to both the Democrat Party and the Democrats' Hillary Clinton. Not from Russia at all. And that's one of the charges now against Danchenko. And another charge is that he lied when he said he'd spoken directly with another key source, identified in other reports as the former president of the Russian-American Chamber of Commerce. So that's one thing. The link with the Clinton campaign too. Where did this information come from? From the Clintons? Another is that this whole dossier is tainted by the money trail. Now, that British spy who put together that dossier, Christopher Steele, in fact did it for a firm working for the Democrats, paid for by the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton's campaign, which makes the whole thing smell like a complete political stitch-up. This dossier was given to the FBI to use and was then leaked to BuzzFeed News in 2017, and they just plastered it all over the internet. And that leak, plus leaks from the FBI, started this whole media feeding frenzy that Trump had worked with Russia to steal the election from Hillary Clinton. In fact, Trump's former Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, said this week the top intelligence chiefs under President Barack Obama, who was still in office when this dossier was first being shopped around, they knew from the start it was a con, and yet let it run.
Folks in our intelligence community, like John Brennan and Jim Clapper,
they went with it.
And our law enforcement, FBI Director Jim Comey, they all were aware of this.
Right.
And so, you know, they chose sides. And in roles where they should have been apolitical, they were very political initially to stop Donald Trump.
Now, this special counsel, John Durham, is not saying, at least openly, that Steele or the Democrats or the FBI actually knew that this dossier was all a lie, that the claims were fake. He's not saying that this was a deliberately concocted political con job. And none of Durham's charges alleged that this was a conspiracy. And I don't know if any journalists who swallowed this story and repeated and pushed it and all that, I don't know if they actually knew it was a lie either. Not knew it was a lie. No, I think something else was going on, which is also sick. All these people, from Hillary Clinton with their talk about, you know, Trump's deplorables, to the pro-Clinton FBI agents who investigated the dossier and the journalists of the media left who whipped it all up, I just think they all wanted it to be true. They just really felt it had to be true. And they also believed their own bull about Trump being evil and vile and capable of all these sorts of things. Of course he'd do all that. That, I think, was going through their mind. And there was one more factor. They were so also out of touch that they could not imagine that Hillary Clinton could lose to Donald Trump. Not unless there was some plot, some dirty work to steal that victory from her. The Russians. Collusion. In other words, this was bias for steroids, a groupthink that you've probably never seen before. So intense. The kind of thing where journalists convince themselves that even if they're wrong in the right cause. So no need to check too closely if what they're saying is fake news, and it was. All of which now leaves the organisers of the Pulitzer Prize with a huge moral dilemma. Although after what I've just said, maybe they don't really care. Trump's gone, job's done. The Pulitzer is supposed to be America's top journalism award. And in 2018, it went to reporters from 2 newspapers which really push this collusion hoax hard. The left-wing New York Times and the Washington Post. But now, with this collusion story in pieces, shouldn't these reporters give that prize back? Or at least write, you know, how about writing big stories in their papers on how the world came to be fooled? That's a big story. I mean, we're talking about a hoax that probably toppled the sitting president. The media hoax of the century.